I'm Claire, I'm 34 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. I work as a private chef and run a small but thriving catering business that I built from the ground up. Food is more than just a job to me, it is my love language, my form of art, and honestly, my therapy. I'm the type of person who reads cookbooks for fun, who travels based on regional cuisines, and who thinks of spices the way most people think of colors. I've been featured in a few local magazines and I have steady high-end clients who trust me with everything from anniversary dinners to corporate retreats. I do well for myself and I take enormous pride in my craft. My younger sister, Morgan, is 31 and lives about 20 minutes away from me. We've never been particularly close. She's always had this sort of competitive tension with me, like she's keeping score on every little thing, who got more compliments at a family gathering, who got a nicer Christmas gift from mom, who posted better vacation photos. I've always tried to stay out of it. I am not someone who likes drama and I genuinely believe that peace in the family is worth more than being right. But that does not mean I do not notice things. I notice the passive-aggressive remarks she makes. I notice the way she downplays my business when we're with our extended family. I notice how she brags about winging it when I clearly put effort into something. I have let all of that go over the years, brushing it off as insecurity. I am not perfect either. I know I can come across as polished, especially compared to Morgan, who floats through life trying different jobs, different boyfriends, different hair colors, and never really settling. Anyway, a few months ago, I decided to host a formal dinner for our mother's birthday. It was a big deal to me. Our mom had just retired and I wanted to do something elegant and unforgettable to show her how much I appreciate everything she has done. I planned for 12 people, just our immediate family and a couple of close family friends. I spent 3 full days preparing a 5-course meal. I handmade the pasta. I marinated duck breasts for over 24 hours and pan-seared them in a reduced cherry balsamic glaze. I made a seasonal salad with roasted butternut squash, candied walnuts, and a citrus vinaigrette I tested 6 times beforehand. I made a leek and potato soup that I garnished with edible flowers. For dessert, I torched each individual creme brulee by hand. The table settings were pristine. Everything from the folded napkins to the playlist was curated. I wanted this night to feel like a Michelin star experience, not just another family meal. Everyone was on time, seated, drinks poured. My dining room was glowing with candles and the smell of rosemary focaccia lingered in the air. We had just finished the soup course when Morgan walked in 20 minutes late, wearing a smug smile and flanked by a small crowd of people. I blinked, thinking maybe I had miscounted. But then they just kept coming. One by one, a total of 15 extra people filed into my house, laughing loudly, taking selfies in the entryway and ignoring the stunned looks from my family. They were Morgan's boyfriend's extended family and a few of her coworkers, apparently. Some of them I had never even seen before. She never asked. She never called ahead. She just showed up and announced, "Hope it's okay." I figured Claire would have made enough food. The moment is seared into my memory like a burn mark. I stood there, stunned, as these strangers squeezed around my table, pulled extra chairs from my office and started helping themselves to food that I had portioned and plated with intention. I had enough servings for 13 people. These guests ate everything. They tore through the duck like it was a backyard barbecue, scraped the salad bowls clean, and one guy actually licked his spoon before double-dipping into the soup pot. They made fun of how tiny the servings were, said things like, "Do you have real food in the kitchen? And is this duck or chicken?" Hard to tell. To make matters worse, someone opened a $90 bottle of wine from my private collection, something I had set aside for a personal event, and poured it like it was boxed Merlot. Morgan laughed when I confronted her afterward. I said, "You didn't even ask." She rolled her eyes and said, "You're a professional. I figured you'd have enough food. Relax, it was fun." Fun. That was the word she used. After everyone left, I stood in my kitchen for over an hour, cleaning up bits of duck skin off the floor, half-empty wine glasses from the hallway, and discovering someone had spilled chocolate on my cream linen table runner. My hands were shaking. I had put my heart into that night. I did it for our mom. I did it for the family. And Morgan turned it into a circus just so she could prove some bizarre point or have a spotlight moment. That night I realized something. Morgan did not just stumble into a mistake. She made a choice. A choice to humiliate me. A choice to disrespect my time, my home, and my craft. And she did it with a smile. So I waited. Thanksgiving was last weekend and Morgan was hosting for the first time in her adult life. Not helping out. Not bringing rolls. Not even co-hosting at our mother's place like she used to claim she was basically doing everything anyway. No, this time it was all hers, her house, her menu, her moment. And she made absolutely sure no one missed it. 1 week out, she posted a dramatic photo on Facebook. It was not a candid shot of her cooking or a warm family moment. No. It was a stock photo, like, actually watermarked, of a golden turkey on a rustic wood table surrounded by fall leaves and miniature white pumpkins. Her caption read, "Homemade dinner for the whole family. Bringing back tradition." It was as if she were auditioning for a Food Network spin-off and thought branding was more important than food. Naturally, her friends and coworkers flooded the comments. "You go, girl. So proud of you. Wish I could come." Her boyfriend commented with 3 fire emojis, which honestly made me gag. I just clicked like and left a single comment, "Looking forward to it. I'll bring a few friends." That was it. She gave it a thumbs up and never followed up. Not even a "how many" or "who are they?" Not a single question. It was clear she assumed I'd be showing up with maybe 2, 3 people at most. But she had already taught me that RSVPs were apparently just decorations. What she did not know, what she never even thought to consider, was that I had been planning this since the night she turned my mother's birthday dinner into a chaotic buffet line of rude strangers. I had relived that night in my mind 100 times. Every duck breast torn into with greasy hands, every empty dish scraped clean before half the table had been served, every mocking comment about how fancy everything was. And of course, the kicker, her saying, "I figured you'd have enough food, aren't you a professional?" So I decided to return the favor. But I wasn't going to stoop to her level with just random +1s and clueless party crashers. I wanted theatrical precision. So I reached out to a local improv troupe I had once catered for. Strange gig, but the performers had been eccentric in a fun, committed kind of way. Their specialty was social chaos comedy, whatever that meant, and they had a reputation for immersive character work. I met with their director over coffee and laid out my idea, a Thanksgiving dinner with the worst guests imaginable, loud, demanding, messy, absurd. I wanted her to feel every bit of stress she had dumped on me, but amplified. I paid their full rate, including bonuses for staying in character and improvising based on the environment. Each actor was assigned a role with quirks, goals, behaviors, even wardrobe guidelines. When the day came, I wore a calm, classic tan sweater and brought a homemade cranberry tart in a glass dish. My real friends, 3 of them, came with me. They were in on it and agreed to act like clueless tagalongs. But the rest of the crew, all 17 actors, were dressed like they'd been randomly assembled from a lost and found bin at Burning Man. One wore a tuxedo jacket with board shorts. One came barefoot. Another had a bright orange wig and carried a karaoke microphone. 2 had Bluetooth speakers that alternated between EDM and Gregorian chants. Someone had a selfie stick with a ring light. They were loud, clashing, chaotic energy incarnate. Morgan opened the door and her face froze mid-smile. You could practically hear her brain short-circuiting. Her eyes darted from person to person, trying to map them against her mental guest list. I gave her a cheerful wave, passed her the tart, and said, "Hope you're ready." One actor, playing an over-friendly New Age life coach, immediately pulled her into a stiff hug and said, "You must be the alchemist of the sacred gathering." I brought my own intention crystals. Another followed close behind with a foam neck brace and declared loudly that they could only eat food cut into triangles, otherwise it triggered their spinal aura. We entered her house like a tidal wave. The decor was what I expected: burlap runners, faux pumpkins, scented candles that reeked of cinnamon and artificial gratitude. The turkey had been carved already dry, slightly gray, and stacked on a mismatched platter next to a vat of boxed mashed potatoes and something that might have been green bean casserole. The chairs had been arranged carefully around a long table, but within minutes my group started moving them, creating subgroups and pulling extra seating from the garage. One actor set up a folding lawn chair with a lumbar pillow and said he needed his own sacred space. The noise was immediate and relentless. The conspiracy theorist launched into a full lecture about how Thanksgiving was invented by the military-industrial complex to distract from lunar colonization. He tapped on the turkey, muttering listening device, and refused to eat anything unless he saw it come straight from a sealed package. The fake allergy girl unpacked a cooler with her own meal prep and accused Morgan of gaslighting her gut flora. The fighting couple erupted in a whisper yell over whether gratitude journaling counted as therapy or just Instagram bait. The crypto bro kept scanning the turkey with his phone and claiming it was a low-yield opportunity before pitching a prehistoric tokenized portfolio to Morgan's boyfriend. Morgan tried to hold it together. She really did. She poured wine like it was holy water, smiled until her cheeks twitched, and clapped her hands repeatedly to get attention. At one point, she tried to make a toast. She stood up, cleared her throat, and barely got out, "I just wanted to say how thankful I am," before someone cranked their speaker to full volume and shouted, "Let's manifest," followed by a remix of Jingle Bells played at an illegal decibel level. By minute 25, she was fraying. By minute 28, unraveling. At exactly the 30-minute mark, she pulled me into the hallway, visibly sweating, and demanded to know who these people were. Her voice cracked. Her hair stuck to her forehead. She looked like someone had thrown her into a blender of garlands and existential dread. I met her eyes and said, "I told you I was bringing friends. You didn't ask for details. I figured you'd have enough food, aren't you a hostess now?" That was the spark. She didn't just lose her cool. She exploded. A raw, guttural scream burst out of her. Everyone in the dining room went quiet. Someone dropped a spoon. Another person said, "Wow, that's commitment to the bit." She stomped into the kitchen, grabbed the nearest dessert, an aggressively lopsided pumpkin pie, and hurled it at the wall. It hit the cabinet, splattered across the backsplash, and began its slow, sad descent down the front of her stove. She yelled that we had all ruined Thanksgiving, that she was trying to build something real, that I was a psycho for pulling the stunt. One of the actors asked, "So, no leftovers?" Another held up a glass and asked if he could still keep the wine glass because it matched his aura. My mom, silent the whole time, sat in a corner with a full glass of Merlot and a completely neutral expression, but her shoulders trembled. I knew she was laughing. She raised her glass to me just slightly. A single nod. She knew. She remembered her birthday. Morgan screamed one last time, something unintelligible about betrayal and boundaries, and stormed up the stairs. A door slammed hard enough to rattle a picture frame. Guests slowly drifted out. Someone had written "Grateful AF" in cranberry sauce on her kitchen counter. Someone else took one of the decorative gourds. One guy packed himself a to-go plate from her untouched dessert tray. My friends and I helped gather coats and wiped up a few spills, thanking the actors as they exited. Eventually, Morgan's boyfriend came downstairs, pale and ghostly, holding what looked like a broken corkscrew. He muttered something about needing a reset and wandered into the backyard. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to explain anything. I just cleaned up a few wine glasses, gave my mom a long hug, and left the cranberry tart on the counter untouched. She had rewritten the rules months ago. I simply played the game better. She locked herself in her room. 2 days after the Thanksgiving disaster that left pumpkin pie dripping down cabinets and Morgan locked in her bedroom like a hostage of her own ego, she sent out a group message to the family. The subject line said, "Family healing time, Zoom meeting to reconnect." She CC'd our parents, our cousins, our Uncle Steve and Aunt Linda, even our great-aunt Renee, who still calls the internet the Google. The message itself was a masterpiece of passive aggression dressed up as maturity. She wrote that it was time to clear the air, that there had been misunderstandings and unnecessary drama that had overshadowed an important family holiday. She emphasized how important it was for everyone to come together and listen, and said she wanted to provide a safe space for accountability and growth. What she meant was, she wanted to stage a public takedown of me. What she didn't know was that I had come prepared with evidence, like any seasoned victim of family manipulation learns to do. I knew Morgan. I knew her playbook. She was going to start off calm, rational, wounded. She'd talk about how she tried so hard to host, how she was blindsided, how humiliated she felt, how her Thanksgiving was turned into a mockery by a calculated attack. Then she'd pivot to guilt-tripping. She'd bring up our mom, throw in childhood stories, and try to paint me as the golden child who always gets away with things. She'd cry. She'd sniff dramatically. She'd pause, waiting for someone to defend her. But this time I had something better than words. I had footage. The Zoom call started on a Thursday night. I had a glass of tea in front of me and my screen carefully set to share. Morgan, of course, opened the meeting with her camera on, full makeup, lit by what I could only assume was a ring light. She smiled with a solemn expression, like someone giving a eulogy for her own sense of control. Our parents were there, our cousins too, some lounging on couches, one already sipping wine. Uncle Steve was eating chips directly into the mic. Morgan launched into her speech. She talked about violated boundaries and emotional terrorism disguised as comedy. She said Thanksgiving had been turned into a stage for public humiliation, and she refused to be a doormat for sibling theatrics anymore. She said she hoped the family would hear her out and acknowledge the pain I had caused. I let her talk. I let her stack the kindling. Then I lit the match. When she finally said she wanted to review what happened and get some clarity, I clicked share screen. The first video I played was from Mom's birthday. A security cam feed from my dining room that I had never deleted because I had honestly needed time to emotionally process what had happened that night. I muted myself as the footage rolled. There was Morgan walking in 20 minutes late with her army of uninvited strangers. There was the boyfriend's cousin sticking his hand into the salad bowl. There was a guy eating straight out of the serving tray with a serving spoon, not even bothering to use a plate. Laughter. Crumbs on the floor. Wine bottles being opened without permission. A woman loudly mocking the tiny duck slivers. Another man very clearly sliding one of my silver-plated forks into his coat pocket while looking around. The family watched in stunned silence. No one interrupted. No one laughed yet. It was too shocking. Too raw. Then I transitioned to the second video. Footage from Thanksgiving. A secret angle I had filmed on my phone, set up to catch the improv actors just being themselves, well, their characters. The fighting couple bickered over cranberry sauce, but then one leaned in and whispered, "Hey, don't forget, we get pizza after the scene." The conspiracy theorist paused mid-rant to check his watch and muttered, 10 more minutes of turkey drama, then we bounce. One actor actually looked into the camera and winked. It wasn't even subtle. It was clearly a bit. Clearly satire. Clearly a prank. The silence broke into laughter. Our cousin Danielle had to mute herself from laughing too hard. Uncle Steve said something about the best performance since his high school play. My mom sipped her wine and smiled with zero remorse. Then the final nail in the coffin, our cousin Jordan said, "Honestly, Morgan, it was revenge. You started it." Morgan's face froze on screen. Her carefully curled hair framed a look of complete disassociation. You could see her calculating, scrambling for a way to spin this. But there was none. Not anymore. Then Uncle Steve said, "Well, at least Claire's guests were entertaining. Yours just stole forks." That did it. Morgan's eyes filled with tears, not the kind that make people sympathetic, but the kind that boil up from sheer rage. Her mouth opened like she was about to launch into a rebuttal, but instead, her finger reached for her mouse. And then click. Her camera went black. Her name disappeared. She raged with the call. The screen rearranged. My mom chuckled softly. Someone clapped. The cousins kept replaying lines from the improv footage like it was a new family tradition. I closed my laptop slowly, feeling a quiet satisfaction settle over me. She had wanted to shame me in front of the family. Instead, she ended up broadcasting her own mess on a 1080p highlight reel. I thought that would be the end of it. A week after the Zoom showdown, after Morgan rage quit the call and the family spent the next few days making memes out of my improv guests, something unexpected happened. I got a DM on Instagram. It was from a name I vaguely recognized but couldn't immediately place. Her profile was private, but her bio said something about HR consulting and a plant-based lifestyle. I clicked the message. It started with a long apology. Her name was Danielle, and as I scrolled through her words, the context clicked into place. She had been one of the people Morgan dragged to my mother's birthday dinner. She was one of the uninvited +15s who barged into my house, made snide remarks about my food, and ate like they were at an all-you-can-eat brunch buffet. But this message? This wasn't a casual sorry. She said she had been mortified when she found out what the dinner actually was, that it was private, that it was supposed to be intimate, and that Morgan had completely lied about what she was walking into. She told me that Morgan had invited them all under the premise that I wanted to host a big open dinner to show off and that it was meant to be a kind of community event where everyone was welcome. According to Danielle, she and a few others had even asked Morgan if it was okay to bring guests of their own, and Morgan gave them the green light. But then came the twist. Danielle attached screenshots. Full receipts. A group chat titled Mom's Birthday Blowout with several of Morgan's friends, names and photos visible. In one screenshot, Morgan wrote, "Claire's doing her little 5-course ego parade next weekend. Let's crash it. I told everyone she wants it to be big. Let's see how she handles the real world." In another, she said, "Time to put Miss Perfect in her place." Someone responded with a laughing emoji. Another person replied, "Hope she made enough of those fancy crumbs she calls dinner." The next shot showed her saying, "She thinks she's better than all of us because she juliennes vegetables." Please. I just sat there reading the screenshots over and over again, feeling that cold rush of validation. Because I knew. I had always known. I felt the malice radiating from her that night, but this wasn't just rudeness or thoughtlessness. It was premeditated. It was a coordinated effort to humiliate me in front of our family and make herself feel better by destroying something I had built with intention and care. Danielle ended her message by saying she no longer speaks to Morgan and that she didn't want to be complicit by staying silent anymore. I thanked her, of course. But what I really did immediately after closing Instagram was send every single screenshot to our parents. I didn't add commentary. I didn't write a message. Just the images. Less than an hour later, my mom called me. Her voice was steady but furious. Not at me. At Morgan. She told me she had suspected something had been off that night, but she had chalked it up to Morgan's usual selfishness. She hadn't realized it was intentional sabotage. I could hear the betrayal in her voice. Our mom had always been the kind of person who tried to keep the peace even when it meant ignoring obvious patterns. But this crossed every line. That night, she had a private conversation with Morgan. I wasn't on the call, but the aftermath spoke volumes. The next morning, Morgan was removed from the group text where we normally coordinate holiday plans. Her name vanished. My dad followed suit. My aunt unfriended her on Facebook. My mom sent out a new group message. Going forward, Morgan will not be included in family events until she makes a sincere and direct apology. We are no longer entertaining chaos disguised as personality. It was like a switch flipped. For years, Morgan had skated by on charm, on plausible deniability, on people's unwillingness to confront her toxicity head-on. But now she was standing in a crater of her own making. My family wasn't just disappointed, they were embarrassed. She hadn't just hurt me. She had made the entire family complicit in something deeply ugly. And once the screenshots were out, the truth was impossible to unsee. A few days later, she finally reached out. Not on social media. Not in the family group chat. She sent me a real email. Long. No gifs. No emojis. No deflection. She admitted she had been jealous of me for years. She said every family event where people complimented my food or talked about my business made her feel invisible. She said watching me succeed made her feel like a failure. That none of that justified what she did, but she did it anyway because she thought dragging me down would make her feel less small. She apologized. Not in a half-hearted, passive way. She used the word wrong. Multiple times. She didn't ask me to forgive her, and she didn't beg to be let back in. She just laid it all out and said she understood if the damage was permanent. I didn't reply right away, I needed time. But when I did respond, I told her that accountability matters more than image. That respect has to be mutual. And that her apology doesn't erase what she did, but it's a start. I'm not ready to invite her back into my home. But I don't hate her. I just finally stopped protecting her from the consequences of her own behavior. In the end, my revenge was theatrical, yes. But it never crossed into cruelty. It mirrored exactly what she had done to me. It forced the truth out into the open. And the fallout was her own making. My reputation stayed intact. My family saw what really happened. And Morgan exposed herself.